Have you ever felt like you're facing a challenge so big, so intimidating, that everyone around you says it's impossible? Today, we're diving into one of the most famous underdog stories of all time, a tale that has inspired people for thousands of years. The story of David and Goliath. This isn't just a simple children's story. It's a powerful lesson about courage, faith, and seeing things differently. Our story begins with two armies, the Israelites and the Philistines, lined up for battle in the valley of Elah. For 40 days, the standoff was absolute chaos, but not because of the fighting. It was because of one man, a Philistine champion named Goliath. This guy was a real-life giant. He stood over 9 feet tall, decked out in bronze armor that weighed more than a grown man. His helmet, his spear, his shield, everything about him was designed to scream invincible. Every morning and every evening, Goliath would stride out and shout a challenge to the Israelite army. He'd taunt them, mock their God, and dare them to send out a single warrior to fight him. Winner take all. If their guy won, the Philistines would become their slaves. If Goliath won, the Israelites would serve the Philistines. It was a terrifying proposal. The entire Israelite army, including their king, Saul, was paralyzed with fear. No one dared to face this behemoth. Now, let's switch scenes. Miles away from the battlefield, a young shepherd boy named David is tending his father's sheep. He's the youngest of 8 sons, and he's not a soldier. His job is to protect the flock from lions and bears. A tough job for sure, but nothing like facing a 9-foot-tall warrior. His father, Jesse, asks him to take some food, bread, cheese, and roasted grain to his 3 older brothers, who are soldiers in King Saul's army. So, David packs up the supplies and heads to the battlefront. When he arrives, the scene is pure tension. He hears Goliath's booming voice echoing across the valley, hurling insults and challenges. David looks around and sees the fear in the eyes of the seasoned soldiers. They run and hide every time Goliath appears, and this confuses David. He can't believe what he's seeing and hearing. He asks the men, "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" Notice his perspective right away. The soldiers see a giant they can't possibly defeat. David sees a man who is disrespecting his God. He sees the situation through the lens of his faith, not his fear. His older brother Eliab overhears him and gets angry. He accuses David of being arrogant and just wanting to watch the battle. But David isn't deterred. He keeps asking questions, trying to understand why no one is stepping up. His words eventually reach King Saul. Intrigued, the king summons this brave young man. When David stands before Saul, he says something absolutely astounding. He says, "Let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine. Your servant will go and fight him." Saul looks at David, this young, inexperienced shepherd, and says, "You can't go. You're only a boy, and he's been a warrior since his youth." This is where David's past experiences come into play. He doesn't have a military resume, but he has something else. Your servant has been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion or a bear came and carried off a sheep from the flock, I went after it, struck it, and rescued the sheep from its mouth. The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine. David wasn't boasting. He was stating his track record. He had faced his own giants in the wilderness, and his faith in God had seen him through. He wasn't relying on his own strength. He was relying on the same God who had helped him before. Seeing this unshakable confidence, Saul finally agrees. He says, "Go, and the Lord be with you." First, Saul tries to equip David like a traditional soldier. He puts his own tunic on David, a coat of armor, and a bronze helmet. David straps on the sword and tries to walk around, but it's all wrong. He's not used to it. The armor is heavy and awkward. I cannot go in these because I am not used to them. So, he takes it all off. This is a crucial moment. David refuses to fight someone else's battle or use someone else's tools. He knows he has to be himself. He has to rely on his own skills and his own weapons, the ones he knows and trusts. Instead of a sword and armor, he walks down to the stream. There, he carefully selects 5 smooth stones and puts them in his shepherd's bag. With his staff in one hand and his sling in the other, he walks out to face the giant. When Goliath sees David approaching, he's insulted. He looks at this young, handsome boy with a stick and feels utterly disrespected. He roars, "Am I a dog, that you come at me with sticks?" And he cursed David by his gods. Goliath promises to feed David's flesh to the birds and the wild animals.
But David's response is one of the most powerful declarations of faith ever recorded.
"Esuts back, you come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel. All those gathered here will know that it is not by sword or spear that the Lord saves, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give all of you into our hands." David just reframed the entire conflict. It wasn't David versus Goliath. It was God versus Goliath. He turned his personal fight into a public declaration of God's power. As Goliath moves in for the kill, David doesn't hesitate. He runs quickly toward the battle line to meet him. Reaching into his bag, he pulls out a stone, places it in his sling, and lets it fly. The sling was a humble weapon, but in the hands of an expert shepherd who had practiced for years, it was deadly accurate. The stone sails through the air and strikes the Philistine right on the forehead. The one small spot not protected by his helmet, it sinks into his forehead, and the giant stumbles and falls face down on the ground. Hoosts, like that the unbeatable champion was defeated. David runs over, takes Goliath's own massive sword, and finishes the job. When the Philistines see their hero fall, their courage shatters. They turn and run for their lives, with the once fearful Israelite army now chasing them down in a great victory. So, what can we take away from this incredible story? First, the size of your giant doesn't matter as much as the size of your faith. The Israelites saw an obstacle too big to overcome. David saw an opportunity for God to show his strength. Our perspective changes everything. Second, use the tools you have, not the ones you think you're supposed to have. David tried Saul's armor, but it wasn't him. He won with a sling and a stone, the skills he had perfected in his everyday life. Your unique talents and experiences are your greatest weapons. Don't underestimate what you're good at, even if it seems small or unconventional. Third, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's taking action despite it. Every soldier was afraid, but David was the only one who stepped forward.